This is TJ with TechmadeEZ. Welcome to the channel. My channel is all about making things affordable, practical, and easy. And what we're going to be talking about today is how you can take any PC and have your own NVMe server. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is there are lots of choices now for NVMe servers out there. But one of the problems with these NVMe servers that a lot of them have is that they only have, you've got an NVMe that can perform at 20, 30, 3500 read-write speeds, but they only put in a 2.5 gig networking card, so you're limited on your networking performance to that NVMe server. I don't understand why they do that. All these NVMe servers that come out should have 10 gigabit networking, because why have all that performance if you can't take advantage of it? Now, the ones that do are expensive. Like, there's some that are up there at $700. I just saw one come out the other day, by the way. I think it's a 4-bay, if I remember, NVMe server, but it's only 2.5 gigs. Why? Why 2.5 gigs? And so many of them are like that. So, and if they're not like that, they're fairly expensive. And so I've been really interested in one of these days taking my 64 terabyte server, file server. I also have a family server. It's only about 4 terabytes, and it's a separate server. I like to keep them separate. So, but today, most of my videos are about making things affordable and practical. This video today, part of it's affordable and part of it is not practical. And what I mean by affordable or not, I guess I should talk about, what do I mean by not practical? Because I'm using NVMEs to make a server and they're expensive. They're not expensive if you're only talking 500 gigabytes or a terabyte, but once you get to 4 terabyte NVMe drives, they're $200 or more. And so in order for me to have 64 terabytes available drive space on NVMe, I got to have 16 drives at $200 a pop. That's a lot of money, and that isn't practical for everyone. I'm not even saying it's practical for me. I just want an NVMe server. So my dilemma was the NVMe cards. Now, this particular card here, is a 4-bay for NVMe card. But the problem is with this card, and this card's like $25. The problem is with this card, though, is you have to have a motherboard that supports bifurcation. If it doesn't support bifurcation, it will only see one drive, maybe see one drive, depending on the motherboard. So, and what bifurcation does, bifurcation allows the motherboard, you to go into the motherboard setting, instead of because this is a 16 slot, it allows you to separate these into four separations. So in your motherboard, it'll have a setting 4 by 4 by 4 by 4. Then once you set that, then you'll see all of your NVMe drives. But again, a lot of motherboards don't support bifurcation. So the cards that have bifurcation built onto them are expensive. And so I was looking at, you're looking at $200 or more for cards that have bifurcation on them. Well, I was scouring AliExpress a couple of months ago, and I saw these cards right here. And I was interested in small form factor cards, by the way, or low profile cards, because I was planning on making my NVMe server a small form factor PC. The challenge with that is that if I really want to replace my other server, I need 16 NVMe drives. But I was testing out one small form factor PC, and I'll show you which one that is here in a minute. It's a great small form factor PC for a file server, and there's a couple of reasons why. But I got onto AliExpress. This particular card right here, this one was $18. So by the time taxes and everything is like $25, shipping and handling, blah blah blah. It's not $18 anymore, unfortunately. But it's more around $34. But now the reason why this is so inexpensive is because it doesn't give you the full speed of the NVMe. It's the controller. The controller makes these things more expensive. So the faster your NVMe access is, the more expensive the card becomes, because they put in a more expensive controller. So now this particular card, because I'm doing an NVMe server, all I'm looking for in my server, because I run 10 gigabit networking in my house. My server I have right now is a 10 gigabit server. It's very fast. The drives in there are SAS drives. They have 10 gigabit throughput. The controller card for those drives are 12 gigabit throughput. So I get 10 gigabit throughput speed on those, on my server. And that server, even though it sounds 64 terabytes sounds a lot, it's only costs about $1,000. And the reason why it's only $1,000 is because I'm using an HP Z420 for the server box, and the hard drives are used server hard drives. They're used server SAS drives, and I've had really good luck using hard drives. And so with everything that I buy is used, including the network card, the controller card is used, and the hard drive is used, the PC is used, it comes out to be about, even though I have 64 terabytes, which is eight terabyte drives, it comes out to be about $1,000. That is a great price for 64 terabyte server. But now that I want to do NVMEs, that's going to change. And this is not practical for most home users, because you got to spend, now if you're only doing 4 and you want 16 terabytes of NVMe space, you can get NVMe 4 terabyte NVMEs for $200 if you search for them. That's what I paid for mine. And so, so if you want an NVMe server, say only 16 terabytes, then you can snag one of these and get it. But what I have found is that there are 5 different versions of these cards for their 5 different speeds. This particular one right here gives me 800 read and write speed. But in a server situation, because I'm doing this as a server, I'm doing RAID 5. Now I may end up doing RAID 6 down the road because of how many drives I'm going to have. As soon as I get 16 of these drives, this is going to become my video media server. I'm going to replace my other server with this NVMe server. And my video server, because I don't have a backup, is going to be my backup server. I've been like toying around. Do I want to create a backup server, or do I want to create an NVMe server, and that becomes my backup server? And eventually I will have an all SSD backup server. So this one here, even though the read and write speeds is 800 megabytes, in a RAID 5 situation over the network, it gives me 10 gigabit network speed, write speed with this card. And that's all I want. That's all I need. I can't get better performance because, and the type of stuff I'm doing on my server, it's mostly reading files, like video files to play videos. I do my video editing on that server as well, but the read speeds in these at RAID 5 is over 3,500 megabytes read speed. So what I want to do is I want to show you some PC options, because again, this video is about how to turn any PC into an NVMe server. You might not be trying to get as robust as I am with an NVMe server, because I'm going to explain even how I'm going to take my server even further than the 64 terabytes. So let's go ahead, let's get started. Let's take a look at these other 4 PC options that I have for an NVMe server, and then we'll go ahead and we'll look at the testing. Okay, so let's take a look at these 5 PC options. So if you're going to put a card in here, and the reason why I bought I was looking for a low profile card. First of all, the cards that take 4 NVMEs on them that have bifurcation built into them, they are really expensive. I mean, $200 or more. Doesn't matter what you're looking at. And then, but when I was on AliExpress and I found these, they were perfect because I was looking for low profile. Because originally, my NVMe server that I had in mind, I was going to put in a low profile PC. And where this low profile PC for me is not big enough because I need more PCI slots, but at least this one does have 2 slots. And if you're looking at 10 gig networking like I am, then there's a slot for the 10 gig card and a slot for the controller card, for your NVMe controller card. So you could very easily make this into a 16 gigabit NVMe server. There are some caveats to these, to any PC though, that I'll explain here in a minute. So then for me though, for my needs, originally I thought, well, I'll put at least 2 NVMe cards in here. That'll give me 32 gigabytes of NVMe storage. Then also too, this particular PC has 5 SATA slots, 5 SATA slots for SSDs or hard drives. And so I thought, well, then I'll put 5 SSDs in here along with that, and that'll give me even more storage. But again, I was trying to replace my 64 terabyte video server, and I was thinking about using this as a backup, but it's a waste of money for my NVMEs just to be used as a backup. So what I decided to do is I really needed something to hold more NVMEs so I could turn my video media server into an NVMe video server, which means I need 16 drives, or at least 4 slots, and more than that if I'm going to add a network card and if I need a video card. So one thing I will say, the Z440 is what I use to test this card with, but it doesn't have enough slots in there. So by the time I add a video card and a networking card in here, it basically gives me 2 slots and that's it, and I need 4. And so a year ago, I was planning on doing this. I was hoping the NVMe prices would drop even lower than they are now. $200 is hard to swallow when you're buying 16 of them. So the motherboard that I got for this case here is an Asus X99 server motherboard, and it has 7 16 PCIe 3 slots on the motherboard. 7. So I thought, well, no, I'll have no problem with that. And I looked at it and it had bifurcation, but it only has 8x8 bifurcation, and I need 4x4, 4x4 if I'm going to use a card like this. But because I was also looking at small form factor, I was looking at small form factor cards to go in a small form factor. So when I went on to AliExpress a couple of months ago, I saw these cards were just so cheap comparatively, and so I don't actually need 7 16 PCI slots, but I would need at least 4 PCI slots that could take this particular PCI 4 card. So in my testing though, because I was planning on using this, I was doing all my testing with this Z230. But one of the problems I was having is I could never get a higher speed than 500 or 600 megabytes read speed or write speed from this computer. Even though I have a 10 gig network in there and I have the performance of the NVMe drives, I'm like, man, why is that not performing? Well, also too, I ordered 6 of these cards because I wanted to test the higher performing cards, and they just wouldn't work. It wouldn't see the drives, or one of them only saw 2 drives, so I sent them back. But then when I got this card here, it would see the drives, but they were unusable. It wouldn't tell me if they were 4 terabyte. There's no way to use them. It was really kind of weird. So I decided to get out this one here, and I've had that motherboard for a year, and I just barely put it in this case here last week. Well, lo and behold, everything was recognized on this card. So that's what I want to get to here. If you're using too old of a PC, these cards may not work, because these PCs here are probably close to 20 years old. Even though they're PCI 3 slots on the motherboard, the throughput isn't great enough to be efficient, especially like this one here, to give it the read-write speeds that it should have. And also the throughput over the network just wasn't there. Even though I'm using a 10 gig card, it's just that there must be a bottleneck in the PCI configuration on these older motherboards. They just don't have the throughput that both of these systems here are X99 motherboards. So you need to use, and I don't know what year, to tell you to get for like a small form factor. Like my small form factor PC right now would have no problem giving me the speed here. It's a newer one, but I don't know what year to go, because you can get these for $50 easy all day long. So you might have to spend $100 depending on what you're doing, or you may have a PC that will already work for you. So let me just explain though how I'm configuring this one now that I've decided that I really want my media server to be 100% NVMe. So I'll put 4 cards in here. Now I did mention before that AliExpress does have a card on there now that fits 8 PCIe or 8 NVMe drives on it. But again, it didn't say anything that it supports bifurcation, so I don't know about that card. I'm going to order one and see if it works, because then that means I'll take up less slots. It will cost me more for that card, because that card is $200 plus, where this card here that I'm going to settle on is basically $60. And so if I get 2 of those, that's $120. But if I can save some space, I might do that. But anyway, so what I'm going to do here is I'll have 16 NVMEs in here. This drive right here is an 8-bay SSD. I'm going to put another 8-bay SSD in here. So then again, I will have 64 terabytes of SSD space. And like I said, this particular system, I have the video card, the networking card, and a hard drive controller card because I'm going to put 16 SSDs in here. Now, the advantage of this motherboard though, it does have 8 SATA ports on it. So I can add 8 more 4 terabyte drives in here if I want, which I might end up doing. I may not add all 8, but I may add another 4 drives in here that are maybe 2 terabyte each. And that'll become my home server. That'll be the drives for my home server. And then this here, this will be the backup for my video server and my home server, these SSDs. I want to go all NVMe or SSD. Is it practical? No, it's not. My channel again is about being practical. But it's just something that I'm interested in doing, even though it's not practical. I don't like spending that much money on a hobby, but that's my end goal, is to basically have at least 128 terabytes of drive space in here. 64 for the video media server, 64 for my backup, and then maybe a few more for the home server. I don't need a ton of drive space for the home server. So that's what we have here. Now you can configure these any way you want. This is just the way I'm configuring it, and I'm just, for some reason, I'm really bent on having everything in one server, SSDs and NVMEs. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the performance of these cards and the pricing. Okay, so here I am on a Linux desktop, and I'm actually on that Asus computer that I showed you. So eventually, when this becomes a server, I will put TrueNAS on it. And with TrueNAS, they use the ZFS file system for their RAID. And so with Linux, I can go ahead and set that ZFS pool up as well. So I'm doing RAID Z1, which is RAID 5. I've already done that. But what I want to do is I want to show you the performance of the NVMEs with this card. Now, this particular card that I'm running here is the cost on it now is $60. It used to be $40, but and again, they just get more expensive the faster performance you get. I did buy a third card, but it performed the same as this one, and it would cost way more. Now, I'll go over those cards again once we're done going over the test reviews here. But you'll see that it's getting 800 read and approximately almost 700 write. And for an NVMe, obviously this isn't the best score that you can get. But again, this is just for my server, and I just want to make sure that I have read-write speeds of 1 gig or 10 gigabit or higher. So let's go ahead and look. After I went ahead and set up that RAID Z file, let's go ahead and look at what we got here. So I'm just doing the top one. So I'm getting a read speed of 6300, a write speed of 726. But where this comes into play is how fast am I transferring a file over, because it does make a little bit of a difference. So let's look at that really quick. Okay, so what I've got here, this folder on the left, this is my server that I was talking about at the beginning. It's 64 terabytes. It's got 8 hard drives in it. It's set up to be as fast as it can be for 10 gig networking. And so when I copy a file over to this server, so what we have, this test Y folder, that's my home media server. This NVMe D folder is my NVMe drive that I've gone ahead and combined the drives into RAID 5 using ZFS. So if I pop this over here to my server, you're going to see that it gets 10 gigabit speed here, which it'll say it's 1.211, and that is 10 gigabit speed. So, but you'll notice how it hangs here a little bit, and I think that's because ZFS, it puts stuff in memory, and the hard drive kind of has to catch. The hard drives have to kind of catch up. So even though it shows it's done, it's still processing that, and it won't relinquish that. There we go. It just went ahead and relinquished it until it's through writing to the hard drive. But if we take the same file, copy it over here to my NVMe storage, it'll give us the same speed, but we won't have that hesitation at the end like we did with my hard drive server. So here we are here. There's a little bit, boom, it's there. It's gone. So I don't have that hesitation where the drive has to catch up. Now, what happens, so that was a 10 gigabit file size. What if we put in a 30 gig file size? So I'm just going to drag this over, and you'll see that it remains at 10 gigabit all the way through, copying over this 30 gig file, and it will release it as soon as it's done, as soon as it shows that it's done copying. So, and you'll notice down here, this is my networking performance as well. There's a chart down here, but you can also see it up here. And so now when I copy this file over to the server, halfway through it starts to slow down a little bit, and it slows down to about 700 megabits per second. But you'll notice here, boom, it's done. Relinquish that. So I'm going to delete this folder here. So what it is, this folder on the server, the reason why it says Bugs Temp, because it's just a whole bunch of Bugs Bunny cartoons, and they're 5 to 10 minutes long, and there's 60 files in here. So if we drop this over, now obviously when you start copying multiple files over, you lose your speed performance, but you're going to notice it's still pretty quick. These are all video files that it's copying, and it's copying that almost at 10 gigabits per second. So it just performs really, really well. This will not perform this well on my server, even though my server is very quick. It won't perform that fast. In fact, if we just drop this back over here and we go ahead and, whoops, I got it. So when we drop this file over to my file server, which again, they're fast hard drives, fast controller card, it's not going to copy it near as fast as it did to the NVMe. It still performs fairly well, but it's just not going to do it as fast as the NVMe. So I'm very happy with this performance. I can't wait to get the rest of my 12 NVMe drives. I don't know how long it's going to take to get. Maybe within the next year I'll have enough of those to put in the system and start using it as my media file server. So you can see here, it's happening, but it's not as fast. Yeah. So let me go in and let's talk about the different cards that are available to buy here, because this will determine also, if you're thinking about doing this, which card do you really want. Okay, so here I am on AliExpress, and here's the card. Here's the first card I bought. It was $18, and obviously I'm not using this one. This one has a read-write speed of 400 megabytes. I wanted something faster than that. Now, the curious thing is, when I do put this in RAID 5, I do get about 700 megabytes of write speed when I'm copying stuff over the network. But I still wanted it to perform. I really wanted to get closer to 10 gigabit speed for my server and over the network. And so the card that I went with is this card here, and I believe this card was around $30-something at the time before all this tariff stuff happened, and now it's $60. So everything kind of almost doubled when it comes to this. I haven't looked at other stuff that was on Alibaba, how the tariffs have affected it, but I will say this much: when the tariffs first got put in, it was terrible, because I went to buy something that was $100, and I think I mentioned this, and it was a $200 surcharge, so it would have cost me $300. I said, no, I'm not doing that. But then when I came back, I noticed that the prices had come down, and that price wasn't as high anymore, but it did kind of double everything. So hopefully things will relax and it'll go back down. May not go back down to the $18 or whatever these prices were before all of this election stuff happened, but but if you want to know how the performance of these, if you go down, and I did not see this when I first ordered these cards. If I would have known that this was a 400 megabyte performing card, read-write NVMe card, I would not have bought it. I would have bought this one here to test out. You know, the read-write speed is around 830 megabytes, which it was when I showed you that. And I probably would have bought this card here. And in fact, I did buy. In fact, the first time I bought the card, I did buy this one. I either bought this one. Yeah, I bought this one, but it wouldn't see the NVMEs. So I bought another one, and that card wouldn't see the NVMEs. So I just thought, oh, it's just this, it's just the Chinese manufacturing. But no, it was that small form factor, because it's old, and it's probably, those small form factors were probably around the time of the X79 motherboards, and those X79 motherboards you can't even boot from an NVMe, where the X99 motherboards and beyond that you can boot from NVMEs. And so that's probably a good starting point. Anything that was generated, where any system that you buy that can boot from an NVMe will probably then support these cards. And whether that's an NVMe card that you put in the system that it boots from, or it's built onto the motherboard. So I felt bad now because I sent all these cards back saying that it didn't work, and it was probably my fault. Had nothing to do with the cards. So this card is the one that I'm getting the 10 gigabit speed on the server side, and so on and so forth. Now I do want to show you there is another manufacturer here, and I did order a card from them. Again, it didn't work. The reason why I wanted to try this one out is because its PCI Express is 8 times instead of 4 times, and so I was hoping it would perform maybe a little bit better than those other cards, even though it was a little bit more money. So this 10 gigabit card here, I believe it was around $25 instead of $18. But again, it didn't work. I wish I would have tried it at least in my Z440 before I sent them back, just to see if it would recognize them, so on and so forth. So there's this manufacturer here. I wasn't able to test them. I'm sure they work fine on a newer motherboard like the X99 and above. And then you have what I was showing you is here's a $200 8 NVMe card. It will fit 4 on each side. Now, even though it's $200, if I buy 2 of those other cards that I want, and it doesn't talk about any performance here at all. So right here it says that it should get 3,200 to 35 megabytes per second performance. So this may be a card that you might be interested in if you're doing an NVMe server, especially if you have a spare PCI 16 slot that you can use. I haven't tried this one. I'm going to try it though in the future, because if I can buy this card and only take up 1 slot instead of buying 2 cards and taking up 2 slots, I would rather have this card. And if it performs really at the 32 and 3500 megabytes per second, then I'll get that one. But I'm not buying it yet. I've got to hold off. But they do have another one here for $374, and the reason why there's the price difference is one is PCIe 4, the $200 one is PCIe 3. So that's what you have there. Again, you may want to have some type of mini form factor server where one of these cards will help for NVMe drives, where eventually I need 16. So anyway, this is TJ with TechmadeEZ. I hope that was helpful, enlightening. Hope you learned something here. I learned something by testing these cards out as well. And so this is TJ again with TechmadeEZ. Have a great day. Thanks.
Now that was easy peasy.